исламское государство нацеливается на господство в исламском мире. И не только там. Только этими планами явно не ограничиваются.
So long as they continue to pursue a mistaken strategy and hit these targets. What we will do is continue basic technical discussions on professional safety procedures for our pilots flying about Syria. That's it.
We offered our partners to exchange data on where ISIL targets are located, but we received no response. This means that either our partners don't have the data or they don't want us to hit ISIL targets for some reason.
Washington claims Russia is becoming increasingly isolated over its bombing of ISIL. I spoke with Sergei Trifkovich, foreign affairs editor of Chronicles magazine. He thinks the US is trying to save face by ignoring the success of the anti-terror coalition led by Russia.
For only 10 days of air attacks, the Russians, combined with the Syrian boots on the ground, have done more to degrade ISIS than the Americans in over a year of their half-hearted campaign.
The White House says there are risks involved for Russia over its intervention in Syria. Let's take a listen together to what was said.
The fact is, we see Russia doubling down on their support for Bashar al-Assad. That only draws them further and further into a civil war inside of Syria. And it risks a variety of things. It risks Russia's further isolation from the international community.
Earlier, the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, gave a media conference within the last couple of hours. He said that plane was 1 kilometer away from Turkish airspace at the time of the attack.
Today's loss is a stab in the back from terrorist accomplices. I have no other words to describe what happened. Our jet was shot over Syria, flying 1 kilometer away from the border with Turkey. It was downed by an air-to-air missile fired from a Turkish F16 fighter jet.
That jet at the time, these are pictures of that very jet, flying at around 6,000 meters. It was downed by a Turkish F16 fighter jet. The video here shows the jet crashing. It was on its way back at the time to the Russian air base in Latakia, from where we've reported Murat Gazli has been embedded there for weeks. We've shown you so many pictures of that. However, the Turkish military says it was shot down by its warplanes after the Russian jet ignored earlier warnings. Early statements, they said that they had warned the Russians 10 times over this. We've yet to hear more on that, confirmed or not, from the Russian side. This downed plane is a supersonic aircraft, fast, capable machine, capable of over 1,300 kilometers an hour. As you'd expect with this kind of machine, it's got laser range finders on it, which allows the use of very high precision weapons. It's a very capable machine, but of course that particular one no more. The Su-24 has been effectively used by the Russian Air Force since the start of its campaign in Syria. As yet, we don't know the fate of the pilots confirmed, but we've got a good idea. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the fate of those pilots is now being clarified. That's the official line. But both of them, you're seeing here, ejecting from that plane, parachuting, I would say to safety, but that I don't think is the case, before the impact. Russian military helicopters are searching for them this afternoon. Reports say that one of the pilots was captured, unconfirmed reports, and we are later going to show you that unverified, unconfirmed video, but it does indeed report to show one of the pilots lying on the ground dead.
We've been getting reactions throughout the day, and aviation security expert Julian Bray says cooperation is essential as more countries enter the joint anti-terror coalition.
There's certainly going to be a major row over this because there is an enemy to be fought, and it's not these two fighting each other. Well, there's also going to be a lot of diplomatic talks at very high level. Something with the communications aspect of this whole enterprise has gone terribly wrong. And you've got to remember, we've got many different countries now involved, and it is absolutely vital that command and control and communications are very clear between all the various parties. Now, this means that they do have to share information, they have to share intelligence, and they have to share information from the AWACS flying overhead. So what I'm saying to everybody is that they've got to get round the table and really thrash out a way of actually conducting this particular campaign.
There are more details coming in. We're now hearing CNN Turk and others reporting that Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's called an emergency security meeting involving his top generals, heads of intelligence, and also the Prime Minister and other senior ministers. That's the latest line through. For its part, Russia's Air Force has recently stepped up efforts against Islamic State's main source of income. We've been talking about that a lot again this afternoon, and maybe the tie-in here, with dozens of ISIL-held oil facilities recently destroyed. Russian Defense Ministry reporting over 1,000 trucks, for instance, loaded with crude, bombed in the last 5 days. Here's some of the latest footage that's been released by Russia's Defense Ministry of that. Airstrikes have been carried out by planes sent from Russia and by jets inside Syria. The Defense Ministry reports that terrorist command centres and control systems have been completely destroyed in some Syrian regions, most notably in the northern city of Aleppo, Colin.
And here on this map we're about to show you now, there it is, we can see the oil fields that are controlled by the so-called Islamic State group in Iraq and in Syria. The grey areas you can see on your screen now, they indicate where the terror group has some sort of influence. Those marked in black are where it has total control. As you can see, most of the refineries are located in contested or in ISIL-controlled areas.
Well, throughout the day, we're going to bring you a lot of analysis, a lot more comment on it. We've also got William in the studio here. But earlier on, we're talking to Catherine Shakdan from the Shafaqni Institute of Middle East Studies in London, who believes that Turkey is afraid that its links to ISIL will be exposed.
Turkey, so directly targeted Russia. I'm very surprised because I think it's a little bit suicidal. That being said, I think that it speaks a lot as to, how threatened Turkey feels in terms of its financial connections to ISIL, and it actually confirms, if anything, that Turkey, does indeed have very deep-seated ties with terrorists and radicals across the region. I think that ISIL is a very convenient cover, for this kind of imperial campaign that they have been running in the Middle East, trying to, to gain control over not just territories, but political controls over certain governments. And I'm referring essentially to Syria and Iraq. And I think that, the timing of this attack and the very fact that Russia was about getting rid of, those, financial veins toward ISIL, suddenly I would say maybe, spooked Turkey a little bit, whether it is that, Russia would find out, about, technicalities or maybe proof, undeniable proof on the ground that, Turkey is working with terrorists, or whether it is that it's just the money flow would be stopped and that bothered Ankara. I'm not sure. This needs to be determined, but it is for sure there are many links in between Turkey and ISIL. And so I think that says a lot about what kind of regime Turkey is running right now.
Assad needs to go.
Assad has to go.
Assad cannot be a credible partner for us.
It is time for him to go.
He definitely has to be part of the negotiations.
Political resolution can only come about through a negotiation.
We have to acknowledge this is a total failure.
Let's not kid ourselves, that's a joke.
Our coalition is on the offensive. ISIL is on the defensive, and ISIL is going to lose.
All right, let's just reiterate and clarify our breaking news for you then here on RT International. So, the Russian Defense Ministry has released footage of its first airstrikes conducted in Syria against Islamic State. Now, according to the ministry, Russian fighter jets hit 8 ISIL targets today, having conducted 20 missions in total. And crucially, these are in areas where there were no civilians. Now, they targeted ISIL command and control centres based in mountainous terrain areas. The operation was indeed carried out with the coordination with the Syrian intelligence, and that's obviously what makes this mission different to what's happening by the West.
Не амбициями, создать по-настоящему широкую международную антитеррористическую коалицию, как и антигитлеровская коалиция.
Well, Russia had previously unveiled plans to unite forces fighting Islamic State from the air and on the ground. It also insisted on including the Syrian government troops in the battle against the terrorists as one of the most potent anti-ISIL forces. Now, Russia's plan was raised during the meeting of Russia's president and his American counterpart. No specific arrangements were revealed, but both countries acknowledged they do have common grounds in the fight against Islamic State. Now, in an interview with RT Arabic, the Iraqi foreign minister said that new countries joining the fight against ISIS is a very positive move.
The more countries take part in the fight against terrorism, the better, especially if it's countries that have been affected by terrorism themselves. Terrorism is like fire. It spreads across borders. It's already spread from Syria to Iraq and can spread further. That's why it's important to consolidate the international effort against terrorism. We feel that we can't cooperate with states that support terrorism or prepares and finances fighters.